Okay, so this is part 4 of this interview. I love making these videos because I feel like I'm receiving serotonin from making them, hence why I'm going to continue making them, just to get out of the depression of my daily life. Anyway, this interview that he did with this atheist guy is very, very long, and I feel no longer motivated to post any more of his interview because I feel like he mixes truth with lies, and there's some points in the interview where I listen to it and feel like, yeah, that sounds like the truth. You know, when he's talking about how Christianity was formed, you know, I feel like he has a lot of truth, and I do believe that he was the guy who inspired the Bible, and I think people were, you know, thinking that they were talking about him when they were writing the Bible, but really they were actually thinking of, you know, the real Christ, and they were getting confused between these two different people. But I feel like A.J. Miller has received visions about his past life for a reason, because, you know, people believe that this Jesus figure is going to come back, and he has come back. He's A.J. Miller, but I feel that A.J. Miller is actually mostly just a liar and is encouraged to lie by the Spirit with my authority and my approval, actually. Even though it's not the truth, I still think that there's, you know, a good reason why he's lying and why he's been brought up to believe that it's fine to lie to get people to believe you. But there's a lot of things that he says that I just don't agree with, such as, you know, your soul being birthed into two realms at the same time when you're born. And then he also says a lot of other crap in this interview. I'm not going to post it. You know, they bring up the topic of Allah and Muhammad, and, you know, his view on Buddha. I don't really know what to say about Buddha. You know, I feel like he has inspired you know, peace and stuff, so that's a good thing. So I'm not going to insult Buddha, other than to say it's not really good to be unhealthy and fat, and that's a lot of his images. You know, his images is of a sort of fat guy, and that's not very healthy. But other than that, I don't really want to insult the Buddha. But when it comes to Islam, he does say some things I definitely do not believe in. That he believes that Allah was actually a man, and that this Allah person died and became a spirit, and Muhammad too was a real person who died and now is living in the 6th dimension. I don't believe any of this. I do think Muhammad was a real person, yes, and he's got to be alive somewhere, but he's also just been reincarnated. But because of, you know, who he is, his identity will never be known to the world, because there'll be a lot of people wanting to kill him if he was to say this. You know, if A.J. Miller claims to be Jesus, he might be okay, but if someone comes claiming to be Muhammad, and the one that wrote, you know, the Quran, there's going to be a lot of people wanting to murder him, so this person will never get exposed. Although it would be funny if it was the same guy who bought me the iPhone, the Saudi prince. Anyway, I don't know. I'm not saying that that's the truth. I don't know is what I'm saying. And I don't even know if he was a prince. I know he was a diplomat because of the police trying to arrest him for driving when perhaps drunk, but his bodyguard's not allowing it because of his diplomatic status. But yeah, that's all I really knew about him. I only spent one day with him, so I don't actually know who he is. I met him through a professional massage, and then he invited me out and bought me a phone just before we went out. But that whole experience was weird because you don't just meet someone and buy them a £700 iPhone. But if it turned out this experience happened because I'm God and that guy was actually Muhammad, I'm pretty sure he would see a good reason not to tell people this information. Why? Because there's going to be a lot of people that don't believe him. And because Islam is all about martyrism and, you know, impressing God by death or willing to sacrifice, you know, his life is going to be even more in danger still. And while this is the kind of situation that I'm in, you know, I am God, and there's going to be a lot of people that don't believe me, hence are going to want me dead because of my claim. You know, people claim to love Muhammad just as they claim to love Jesus, and they love those two people in the same way that they would claim to love their God or their Allah. But the truth of the reality is that if these people were actually in a human body and started making this claim, their life would actually be in danger for making this claim, because there would be a lot of other people that disagree with this claim that they have, because they have created some sort of fictional version of that person in their head. And if the person in reality is a bit of a letdown in comparison to the thing that they've created in their head, you know, they're just going to want to attack this real life person of the thing that they've created. When it comes to Muhammad, I do believe that he didn't have the truth, but I feel like the Spirit inspired him to write and preach things that were an exact inversion of what Anna believed, just as a type of test to see who would follow this inverted religion. So it was a very important religion that needed to be set up and established. I'm not too sure why so many people have chosen to follow this. I feel like this is a reflection on how many people God cannot look after. But yeah, there's a reason for it happening. Hence, even though it's an inversion of everything I am, that doesn't mean that God hasn't allowed this, just in the same way that even though this AJ Miller comes with a ton of lies and things that I don't believe in or don't agree with, I feel like the Spirit is encouraging him to lie for a reason. But anyway, when it comes to Muhammad, I don't want to say too much. I know that talking about Islam and Muhammad can get you killed, because part of their religion is to believe that death is what Allah wants, and death is part of their laws and what happens if you don't stick to them. And a lot of it was also about how to please God through martyrism and stuff. So because of this, I don't want to touch on it. I don't want to give too much of my opinion. I do feel like they had truth, only it was completely inverted. But that's all I'm saying. But AJ Miller says something completely different, something that I definitely do not agree with.
The original Allah, who Muhammad actually spoke with, was not the creator of the universe, but rather was a spirit claiming to be the creator of the universe. So he was a man who I've actually met as well, Allah. He was a man who lived on earth. He's now in the sixth sphere of the spirit world as well. And he's a very loving man now, and we've had many conversations, but he is not the creator that most Muslims worship.
Allah was not a man. Muhammad, okay, was a real person. If I was to help AJ Miller, I would tell him not to talk about Islam. Just don't go there. Become a yuppie, 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 yuppie. So I just want to show my new bag. Look at it, it's so cute. I'm calling it a yuppie, and this is Yup, the yuppie. And the good thing about yuppie is if ever you're depressed, you can just be like, do you love me, yuppie? And it'll be like, yuppie, 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 yuppie. Just say yes. Islam believe that Jesus is going to arrive before Judgment Day. So you just need to be like, yes, yes, that's me. But try not to get too much involved. This is where you saying that you're not really the son of God might actually help them. They might support you because, that backs up their religion that, this Jesus figure is not the son of God. I think when it comes to Islamic people, their main goal is to convert people to become Islamic and be more like them. And therefore, if they can kind of mock you in a little way and then use you to try and draw people into their religion, they will like you if they can do that. But when it comes to Moses, you say that he wasn't actually talking to God, he was just talking to sort of deceiving spirits.
And Moses also was not at the time channeling God when he penned the Ten Commandments, but rather was channeling another spirit who was trying to help Moses and the Israelites come to a more loving condition.
I don't know what to say when it comes to this. Be open-minded when it comes to that. Okay, there might have been some truth to it, but there was also... He was given information that he had to give, considering the world didn't want the truth. But my telling of him is that he was never a real person and that he was actually just a fictional character created by story writers many years later. So my belief about Moses is that there was actually many different versions of him where he said different things, and then I looked to see the response of the people around to see what they wanted to believe, and I just went with the popular vote, really. It's like Santa Claus, you could have lots of different versions of his story, and then you just look to see what people want to believe, and you just say, yes, that's the true Santa story. Do you love me, yuppie? And it'll be like, yuppie, 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 yuppie. But in reality, all the Santa stories are just kind of made up, even though there was some truth around this idea, because there was a St. Nicholas. Although the story that you tell about your wife Mary, how she was sold into prostitution at 12,
Yeah, she had a checkered background, a very harsh childhood, and her father sold her into prostitution when she was 12 years of age. Her father raped her from the age of 5 to 12, and she got pregnant when she was 12. And her father, when she became pregnant, sold her into prostitution at the age of 12. So she had a very difficult life. And I met her after she had finished with prostitution, and she was living in Magdala as a woman who owned a business that was helping other women to live and survive. And that's when I met her.
When it comes to this, I don't know if it's the truth or not. I don't know. I know that this stuff happened and it was very common, so it highly likely was the truth, unfortunately. But at the same time, if this is the reason why she is now a very good liar, I can understand. I don't really know your life before you were Jesus, so I don't really know what has turned you into this sort of liar. But if people have gone through a lifetime of persecution, they would find it a lot easier to lie. Why? Because they kind of hate the people that they're talking to. So if they are caught out on a lie, they can just tell themselves, well, these people aren't worth telling the truth to anyway. This is a side effect of hurting people. If you hurt people, they're going to hate people, and therefore they're going to want to tell lies to cause problems, and they're not going to care because they feel so hurt inside. Their soul, their past has been so hurt by others that they don't care if they hurt or lie to others because of the condition that they are in. But at the same time, is it really their fault if they have been lied to by many people in their past and now they think it's fine to lie to? I noticed that with my sister. My sister never used to lie when she was with George, and then when I met her after being in and out of mental hospitals, I found that she was very able to lie, and she told me she did this because everyone else did, and so it was like she was copying other people, and she felt lied to by lots of people. She was taken into the mental hospital through lies, people saying that they're going to help her when really they're going to lock her up, and these things have made her want to lie because she feels others lie to her. But when it comes to Mary, if she didn't actually go through any of this rape, and if this story about her past was actually just sort of manufactured and is just lies told by her partner, maybe then this hatred that she's forming inside of her is actually a lie or based on a lie. To believe that you've gone through that kind of experience would make you hate people, or it would make you not trust people, hence would make you want to live in isolation, which is what they've been doing for the last few years. And therefore, if someone's just told you a bunch of lies about what happened in your past life, it could actually be damaging your own soul and making you a worse person. And because of the belief that you now have, you might be more encouraged to lie to others. So for that reason, I just don't want to get involved in this story too much because I don't know the truth. Honestly, when I talk about her, I'm not seeing any visions. I think she was there at the crucifixion, but that's all I'm seeing. In the Passion of the Christ, and there's some woman that's crying over the Jesus figure that's dying. I feel like that image keeps coming into my head every time I think about her, but that's all I see. That's interesting. I just went online to try and get one of these images, an image of Mary crying from the Passion of Christ, to see if it's the same image that I see, and it's not actually. The image that I see, I actually see a sort of younger woman with hair. I see her hair. And this image from Passion of Christ doesn't actually show the hair. So, this is not actually the image that I see. I do see, like this image, only I can see a good portion of her hair. So I don't know where I'm getting this image from. Maybe this is just a vision that I'm having. I don't know. Sometimes I see visions and I just feel like it's like a film that I've watched or something. But is what she believes, is that the truth? I don't know. But what I do know is that I hate people a lot, and I don't like lying because I want to know the truth about certain things myself. But when it comes to people and what they believe about me, I now hate them so much that if they end up believing lies, I just don't care. And this is the kind of person that I have become because of my horrible life. Now, if your wife did go through that kind of experience, well, I can understand why she would be happy to be a liar right now. So I don't know if it's the truth or not, but it's a sad story, and it's a sad story that a lot of people have gone through, unfortunately. But on a positive level, you're human, and when you were an animal, you do know animals get raped like every single day. And sometimes it's not their choice, sometimes it is their choice. My guppies, when I mixed the males and females together, were pretty much raping each other all the time. But sex is kind of part of life, and it's part of the development, and it's wrong when it's against your will. But when you're an animal, you don't really have a will, hence you don't really see it as wrong. If a dog just comes up to another dog and starts having sex, the other dog that's getting raped kind of doesn't actually see it as rape. They don't see it as a bad thing. And when souls turn from an animal into a human, they have this same sense of not knowing what's wrong and what's right. Why? Because of this past life that they've had when they were an animal and when rape wasn't wrong. So, this is where the confusion comes, and this is why it is formed. But yeah, I can tell you that every single person on this planet was an animal in your past life. So if you've been raped by lots of dogs, that's probably what happened, and it's just part of your development. But you don't have to get wound up or hurt by it. It's the past, it's over. Unless, of course, you're going to die and go back into being a dog, and you're probably going to experience this whole thing again, but you'll be in a body that doesn't really understand whether or not that is wrong or right. So think about things in terms of, is this actually hurting you? And if something is hurting your mind and your ability to think in a certain way, you have to ask, what is causing this pain? Is it you know, people telling you that you shouldn't have sex unless you're married, you know, is the reason why you are suffering is because you know you've had sex outside of marriage and you think you displease God in some way, you know, because if that is the reason why you're suffering, then it's all a lie, because I don't care if you have sex outside of marriage. So, you know, if you are suffering because of your past experiences, you know, you need to look back on those past experiences and think, was this actually against your will? You know, if someone had given you lots of alcohol and has sort of turned you on and made you want sex, and then you've gone and have sex, and then afterwards you're thinking, oh, I shouldn't have done that, and then you're thinking, oh, it's against my religious belief, you know, if you're persecuting yourself by telling you that you've done something wrong when really it was actually your choice, you just shouldn't have drunken so much, you know. Think about the actual effect that something has had on you, rather than what you're now causing yourself to go through by telling yourself certain things about the past and whether or not it was right. If you're not left pregnant, scarred, or with some sort of disease, then, you know, you should just be able to put it to the back of your mind and say, I'm not going to do A, B, and C again to put myself in that kind of position again. Think about how to move on and get over bad experiences. Another topic you talk about is soulmates. You think that you and Mary were soulmates.
As I said, the soul incarnates, it splits in halves. So you actually have another half of yourself out there, whether it's a male or a female. It can only be one or the other. And so, you know, and I'm not saying, so I'm saying when the two halves split, each half can only enter a male body or a female one, obviously. And so your soulmate could be male or your soulmate could be female. But in the case of myself and my soul, the other half of me is a female, Mary Magdalene. And I recognized her as soon as I saw her. She took a bit longer time to recognize that connection.
You know, I used to believe in soulmates. When I was a kid and younger, I used to believe in soulmates, that I had someone that out there that I was destined to meet and be with, you know. I think the root of that is when I was 1, 2, and 3, I used to have this best friend who looked just like me. We looked like twins, only he was a male. We went to the same nursery to school. He was born a couple of hours before or after me and in the same room. He was called Charles or Charlie, which kind of reminded me of Charlie's Angels. And then when I learnt that I was God, it was also interesting how the king-to-be was called that. And we looked like twins, so I kind of believed that I had a soulmate and one day I was destined to meet him. But now I'm 37, no clue where he is. He joined the army, haven't seen him since I was 3, so I was wrong about that. I think, though, when it comes to that belief, I was right about something. You know, I met Martin. I believe I was always destined to meet Martin. Technically, I think that is still true, but I was destined to meet Martin and we weren't actually destined to be together because he only ignored me. You know, I feel like maybe I had that belief because there is some truth to it, which is that I was destined to meet my son from when I was Dala, but it turned out that he wasn't actually destined to help me or like me. I also had a strong belief that if I did have a soulmate, he would have probably killed himself because he hated this world so much. But anyway, I had a few beliefs before I knew I was God, but they weren't backed up by evidence or facts, hence I wouldn't have presented them as facts, I would have just presented them as theories. I think your view too is completely bullshit, but yeah, it's just your theory and whatever. The smart way to handle prophecies or theories is to not just see them as blunt bullshit, but rather just think that maybe there is some truth to it. I don't think that a soul splits in two. Why? Because souls start off small, they get bigger, they grow, they develop, you have multiple different partners, and eventually you find people that are right for you, and then you evolve, change, become a different person, and then someone else becomes right for you. And I think this is the truth about how souls develop and grow. Not that you were ever destined to be with someone, but there might be some truth to it because the timeline is set up. The Matrix knows what your next lives are going to be, hence knows all the partners that you're going to have over the course of your future, and this is all part of destiny. But at the same time, there is choice. You have choice. And if you want to leave your soulmate, then technically he's not your soulmate and you have the choice to do that. So to believe in soulmates is almost a belief that you don't have a choice on who you're going to end up with. And I think that's a wrong way of looking at things. You know, maybe I will meet this guy who was born in the same room, in the same time, at the same day. You know, maybe we will one day be together. But I don't know. I know that it will be my choice. Likewise, it has to be his choice to be with me too. And there's a very high chance that he's happily married with kids right now. So, you know, I don't know. And I know that I'll only make that choice after I've met him, if I ever meet him, if he's still alive. You know, you have to think of it that way. But right now, I don't think I even want a partner. But because this is my Jesus character, you know, he doesn't have to come with truth. He just needs to come with whatever he wants to believe, because that's part of what Jesus is. a real person with beliefs that aren't necessarily the truth. But part of the truth is that it's a test to see what you want to believe.
I was one of those people who could speak to spirits, and I often did. And in fact, there's records in the Bible of me speaking to spirits who other people could not see. And I frequently did that. And I also had what are called some guides, some people who helped me understand love better than the average person. And one of those people was Michael, the person who's called Michael the Archangel. He was a person who also lived on Earth, but he lived on Earth nearly 150,000 years ago.
Bullshit, but yeah, it's just your theory and whatever.
So he's had a very long experience, of life, and he's lived in the spirit world, of course, most of that time, as has the so-called Archangel Gabriel and some of the others that are, sometimes referred to by the Catholic faith. The reality is I've met Abraham. So the man who is claimed to be Abraham in the Bible, I've actually met him and asked him about his life. So yes, he existed, as did Isaac and Jacob. They are all people who did actually exist.
No, they didn't. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. They are all fictional characters made for the purpose of the Bible to get people to have a belief in something. I think it's amazing how you're trying to convince people that you're telling the truth, and yet you're adding just so many lies into what you're saying that I feel like it's hard for people to want to believe things like this. If you're just openly saying that you have conversations with Abraham, this is why you are coming off crazy, because a lot of people think that they have conversations with Jesus, and you're doing the same thing, only you're saying you're Jesus and you have conversations with the other people, and you're just talking about it like it's just a normal everyday thing for you. But yeah, this is, I guess, part of what you have to do, because I don't really want people to believe in you. I'm the real Christ. I'm the one that the Bible is about. So I guess I want people to not believe you. But yeah, you're making it too obvious from my perspective. But then again, I feel like maybe you're making it so obvious because there's just so many really big idiots in this world that are going to fall for you if it was a choice between believing in you or believing in me, or perhaps believing in me but only seeing me as some sort of sacrifice and seeing you as the one that comes with truth and answers. But I have to admit, if anyone chooses to believe your telling of things rather than my telling of things, they deserve to die. So I'm glad that you're, obviously telling lies. In my view, I would see them as obvious lies. But if you're an idiot, you might not see it in that way. Right now, you would see it in that way because you'll be seeking, the idiots are seeking something that's in their imagination, something that's fake. And when they realize that what they believe is fake and they're shown the proof that I am the real Christ, they're going to be wanting to see something real. So these idiots are probably going to want to believe your side of the story because they're going to try and blend their version of Jesus into what you're saying.
The Christian God, Jesus, is not the creator that most Christians worship either, right? The reality is that the real God, which is, who is all of our fathers, and, the father of all is probably a better way of saying that, is the creator of the universe. And me, I am a man, just as Muhammad was a man, and Allah was a man too, who used to live on earth. But what happened was that Allah at the time had a lot of good philosophy, which he felt would help Muhammad through his life. Me arguing about my dad and how good he is, with you arguing about how you get your dad and how good you are. And sooner or later, one of us, if we're not interested in truth, is going to start exaggerating. And this is often what has happened historically. And unfortunately, a lot of that gets recorded as fact. And it's obviously distortion. So, I can tell you about Abraham's life because I've actually talked to him about his life and remember most of the conversations I've had. He is now a celestial angel as well. He lives in the highest spheres above the eighth, along with Sarah and also Hagar and also Esau, the man who is so-called founder of the, what is now known as the Palestinian lineage.
Okay, this video was found on a Mythbusters podcast thing. And yeah, I'm fed up of listening to this guy's lies. It's clearly lie after lie after lie, mixed in with some truths. I was glad that I was making this video because I wanted to give my views on some of his thoughts. I talk about religion all the time, but I'm mostly focused on Christianity. I haven't really focused on whether soulmates are real or not. I don't know a lot of these answers, and I feel like I need to give my opinion. But yeah, when it comes to a lot of things, for 26 years of my life, I didn't actually believe that I was a God, and therefore I know that I don't have the truth, because if I did just automatically have the truth, you know, I wouldn't have spent 26 years not believing in God. So because of this, I'm being open-minded and as honest as I can be. He, however, I don't think is being honest, but he is pretending to be. He said he first started believing that he was Jesus when he was 33, and it took 7 years for him to develop this belief. And therefore that kind of contradicts the fact that he has been alive for 2,000 years and has been aware of everything, you know, for that 2,000 years, and that he's not like a different person, he's not reincarnated, he's the same person. You know, if that was the truth, he wouldn't have spent 33 years not knowing anything about the spiritual realm or the fact that he was Jesus. You know, because of that, I feel like that's an obvious lie. You know, you can see obvious lies within his story. But anyway, he's my Jesus character. Lying is his gift.
The reality is, my experience has been that God wants us to know the answers to everything. And any person who's honest with you will want you to know the answers to everything. And so that's all I'm going to be, is honest with you. And whether you believe me or not is another matter.
No, I thank you. You've been kind. I mean, yeah, you're not a dictator. You're not you don't go around telling people you better do, you know, so.
No, exactly. And thank you for also going to such great lengths to make this.
I think the only thing that I would really want to ask him now is, well, how bad was the crucifixion, and what is your belief on Adam and Eve? Because I think that's going to be a big kicker, because a lot of people believe in evolution. So if he doesn't believe in evolution, well, he really is for morons. I've made these videos because I know that I am looking for a type of Antichrist figure, and the original Antichrist figure was this Jesus of Nazareth who came kind of claiming to be me, but all the stories got changed. You know, that is the original Antichrist. Someone who is like me, mocks me a little bit, pretends to be me, but in reality has no clue who I am, who God is, and is just coming with lies. And that is what the Antichrist does. He comes with lies. And peace, though, and peace. He comes with lies and peace, but yeah, God is very, very angry, and so he needs to come with lies about how God is just love and just wants to love everyone, because that's all I want, nothing else.